prefer the extra mobility, the extra freedom in size, okay? I get a bit more flexibility with what I'm wearing underneath. I like the greater range of movement, and its protective value is still phenomenal, okay? A brig is way more protective than a male hallberg, okay? Now, oftentimes, and this is far more represented in the art, are brigandines worn with male underneath. For myself, too heavy. If I was ever gonna combine male with a brig, it's gonna be on an arming doublet with only male sleeves. I really don't think I need the extra male layer underneath solid metal plates. And so in terms of protective value, that's only going to offer a small marginal increase in protection for this reason. Cuts are not going to get through solid metal plates like this. In terms of blunt force impact, mail has no structure at all, so it's not going to protect you anymore with an additional layer of mail underneath this thing for blunt force. The only additional increase it might give is for piercing attacks. If you get something in between the joints of, the brig, in between the plates or, the front opening, okay, mail might do the thing, because in terms of just pushing through mail, very difficult. You need a wind-up to actually punch through mail, and so that could be the only reason I can kind of think of why you would want to wear mail underneath a brig, and that would be a more exceptional situation. I know if you're in the situation where you needed mail under the brig, you wish you would be wearing it because you'd be dead otherwise, but for the most part, from what I see, I'm very happy with the level of protection this gives me. Like, this is solid as anything. No wonder people felt protected when wearing this. And one of the last obvious benefits about the brigandine over other types of armor, far easier to repair. Think about this, okay? Now, in terms of plates, it is possible to dint and even punch through some of the plates. Usually, the thing that's punching through will get stuck in and won't have additional penetrative power to actually do lethal damage, and a guy only penetrates about that far. And so even things that punch through wouldn't generally kill someone wearing plate like this. Okay, but say that happened. You would obviously want to repair that hole, but if it was a solid metal plate, how are you going to do that? With a brigandine, you just replace the plate, a small plate, replace it with another, re-rivet it, and you're good to go, okay? And in terms of replacing the fabric, it's a lot easier than replacing steel. So this is far more repairable and easier to do maintenance on than a full plate harness. So big advantage once again. The other thing you should understand about brigandine, it wasn't actually one or the other. Oftentimes brigandine was combined with solid plates. Either that was solid plate pauldrons, so these wouldn't be brigandine plate pauldrons like I'm wearing, they'd be solid plate without the fabric on top, or other parts of the armor that was on either the arms or legs, that would be solid plate. So there's a bit of mix and matching. I do feel brigandine should be considered in a more equivalent range to full plate because of the pros and cons. It's not just full negatives, which makes it worse, but it's more affordable, so that's why people wore it. No, people who were nobility that had money chose the brigandine, and therefore I think it should be considered on a more equivalent plane, understanding those pros and cons, okay? Because I'm not saying it's better in every regard. I'm saying it gives certain benefits that full plate harness doesn't give. And it should be represented far more in fantasy, but absolutely the historical periods that are trying to show it. And so if we look at one of the more recent examples, the movie The King, with the big final battle of Agincourt. If there's any place to have people wear brigandine, it was in that battle right there. Not a single one in that whole movie, okay? I actually mentioned that when we see the knight running up, it wasn't in the battle of Agincourt when I mentioned this in my review, but before that I do mention, why aren't people wearing brigandines, okay? So we need to bring it back into popularity because it's so darn cool. The brigandine, not only is it really effective, they look awesome. Like, seriously. And this kind of then is leading into the next part in terms of the different types of brigandine and the styles, because what I'm wearing, I particularly like, but this isn't what representative of one of the more common brigandine styles, which have thinner tapered waists. They are referred to like the washed thin type waists. In actual fact, the cuirass I'm wearing here is more representative of the transitional types of brigs between the armor that they are based from, or they developed from, and that is the coat of plates. So you can kind of see the logical progression here from mail, when you had just a mail hauberk. Solid plates were attached to them and sometimes worn in conjunction with it, if it was pauldrons or other things like that. And then someone had the bright idea of fixing those plates to fabric or leather facing. And by the way, yes, leather can be on the surface of bricks, and the leather isn't the main protective thing, it's the metal plates. The leather is only serving as the surface holding them together. And so the coats of plates generally had much larger plates, sometimes just full straps like there, okay? And as they progressed and the transition happened into the brigandine, the plates started to get smaller. That's the general kind of pattern that we see. And a good example are the coats of plates and brigandines that were found at the site of the Battle of Visby. We see a wide range of types of coats of plates, and also brigandines, or brigandines that are in a kind of transitional period there, where we see plates that are nowhere near as big as others. Sometimes plates that are about the size of the one I'm wearing, which is about the yay big, to even smaller plates. And the smaller plates, which are like little kind of, rectangular tags almost, are actually the types of configurations that we find on some of the later styles of brigandines, especially the ones that have the tapering wasp-thin waist. So the cuirass I'm wearing isn't based off of one of those types. In actual fact, the one I'm wearing is based off of the Chalkis Type 2 brigandine, and I actually found this in my own research to try and find the type of brig that it was based on, but then I reached out to the Steel Mastery, the manufacturers, to confirm with them independently, not saying anything, what I was looking at. They said, yeah, this is one of their interpretations of the Chalkis Type 2, and there are a couple of different interpretations that you can make of it because it's in a bit of disrepair, unfortunately. And the Chalkis Type 2 is considered an early 15th century brigandine, but far more representative of the brigandines of that period are the ones with wasp-thin waists and made with smaller metal plates. But they're not the only type either. There is actually, it's like, do you call this a brigandine? Some people do, some people don't. It's a type of brigandine that's actually made of almost solid plates, okay? And they're riveted to fabrics, and they usually have a singular line of rivets that go in a kind of semicircular way down to the sides. Sometimes those brigs are opened at the front, so it's easy to put on if you don't have any help. But there are other brigs that actually seem to be just solid plates, or made out of only a couple of solid plates, an upper one and a lower section. And there is very little difference between that and a full metal cuirass, apart from the fabric or the surface. And so do you call that a brig? It's a type. I would say it's a type of one, and it goes to show you how fashionable people really thought the brigandine was, with having colour on the surface. And so they even started to do that with armours that were pretty much equivalent to just solid plates. They put fabric on the top. They made rivets in a certain pattern to look stylish and stuff, because you should never underestimate the impact fashion has in nearly every walk of life, especially armor. So the brigandine needs far more love and appreciation than it is currently getting in every adaptation of the medieval period. But it also depends on which point of the medieval period you're adapting, okay? Because coats of plates, you're looking at 14th century is when they started to come in, and towards the end of the 14th century is where we see the transition from coat of plates to the brigandine, and also transitional type of models that you see me wearing. And in the 15th century, you also have transitional types like the Chalkis Type 2, and also the more classic representative one of the wasp-thin waists, and also the kind of full plate versions. But in terms of fantasy, well, in fantasy you get to be anachronistic, and you can mix and match far, far more, which actually kind of leads into the next part of this video, which is talking about the specific kit I'm wearing, a bit of a review, and also, again, shout out to Steel Mastery, because in terms of the price point, okay, this is easily one of the better models I have personally found for its price range. There are far more expensive ones that you can get find people making, which are as accurate as possible to the model they're based off of. But that's not to say this isn't as accurate as possible to the model it's based off of either, okay? But in terms of quality and cost, well, there's a difference there. But I really am impressed with the quality that this is in the price range also. Now, it's not to say it's dirt cheap. It is, costly. The cuirass, just the cuirass by itself, is €316. No, 360, sorry. That equates to 416 US and about 580 Australian, which is still a hefty sum to fork out, I do admit, and that's not including the pauldrons or the braces, that's just the Brigandine cuirass by itself. But in terms of other Brigandines in this price range, this Steel Mastery one is really good quality. I've been fully impressed, and because of that, they're getting a much larger shout out than what I have previously agreed to, because I'm just, when it's good, it's good, and when I'm happy with, what I get, there you go, so once again, well paid. So as I mentioned, Steel Mastery actually let me know that the cuirass is specifically based off of the Chalkus Type 2 Brigandine and picture right here. And there are a couple of different interpretations of that one. In terms of the plate configuration, some people say, if you look at the picture, there's only 3 layers of plate underneath the armpit. But if you actually have a look at the fabric, okay, there's rivet holes in the fabric there, indicating at least an additional layer of plates, if not 2 more additional layers. Okay, so trying to go off the evidence, this is the version that they made, and I'm really happy with it. There are a couple of small things that I'm a little concerned about, and this is part of in my review. In terms of the rivets to the fabric, okay, the braces are going to be fine because there's not a lot of movement. In terms of the chest piece, where there's going to be a lot of movement and sometimes a lot of stress on these rivet points, I'm worried that the fabric might actually pop, or rip around the rivet, and the rivet will kind of separate from it. Now, so far that hasn't been an issue, so I guess time will only tell. I do intend to be wearing this for quite a while, but it's probably going to be named the outdoor video kit, because it's just awesome, right? This specific kit has actually raised an interesting discussion about the historical accuracy of it, and what the term historical accuracy even means. Now, some people have criticized the brig to be not accurate at all.
Cruiser destroyed. We've destroyed an enemy cruiser. We've got 2 of them.
Yes! Fuck yes!